Have you ever read a book that was way, way, way out of your comfort zone? Well, in a recent Scribbler subscription box, I got this, The Druid by Jeff Wheeler. Okay. Obviously, from the title and the cover, you can tell what type of book this is. This is fantasy, right? Yes, yes, Chanel. So, and fantasy is so out of my wheelhouse, I can't even begin to explain how far out. Even though I really enjoy, like the recent movie of Dune, and I'm a big Star Trek movie fan, typically I don't read science fiction and fantasy type work like this. However, I was like, you know what? One of the reasons why I joined some book clubs is because, similar to Scribbler, is because I want to try to push myself to read something other than Jane Austen every day. While this book is way out of my comfort zone, I thought I'd go ahead and give it a try. It is one reason why I joined a few book clubs, is because I want to try to push myself to read more contemporary work. I'm very much tied to the classics, and I also really like women's fiction very much. So anyway, I thought, well, let me go ahead and at least read a few chapters and see what I think of The Druid. And you know what? I read the whole thing and I actually had a really good reading experience. So I ended up giving it 3 stars on Goodreads. And the reason for that was, even though I did enjoy the experience much more than I had anticipated, it has not won me over to the fantasy genre. Yes, I don't see myself reading any more books like this, let alone reading any more in this series. This is a series, by the way. The book is part of a series. And I was curious to see, when I got to the end, because obviously I anticipated some sort of cliffhanger at the end. I was wondering, is this going to make me want to read, more in the series? So I find out what happens to the protagonist, Aileen. And no, that was not the case. And in fact, one reason I gave it 3 stars is because even though, for the most part, I enjoyed the experience, like I said, I liked the character of Aileen. I really enjoyed seeing her mature from this really naive young girl into this sort of powerful young woman at the end of the novel. Kudos to the author for that. My critique of his writing was generally, it was pretty good. I did feel like there was some repetition in places. For example, there's a lot of talk about this chick's stomach. She's always got a knot in it, or it's turning over, or it's queasy, or it's flipping, or the girl needs some antacid or something. So I thought that was a little bit clumsy on the author's part. But I could see how, if you were into fantasy and you liked a strong female character, I would definitely recommend The Druid, and I would recommend probably checking into the rest of the books in the series. It's part of the Dawning of Mirwood. So, and this is the beginning of it. So I would say if you like that, then this is probably something that is in your wheelhouse for sure. So yes, it did keep me turning pages. I really liked how at the end of each chapter there was a little bit of a cliffhanger, enough to make me want to go to the next chapter. There was enough, it wrapped things up well enough, but then there was some other little hint of something else that was going to happen that made me curious, and then I read the next chapter. And generally the reading, it was a very easy to read book, other than the fact that there are some unique vocabulary words in it. A number of them I stopped to look up because I was like, is that a real word? And I'm an English teacher, so. But it was just, in the context, it was kind of odd, which is one of the reasons I sometimes have this sort of aversion to fantasy genres. This is just a personal opinion. I'm not dissing fantasy. I know lots of people like it. But that was actually something I kind of enjoyed, was that, use of unique words in the language that was created throughout the text. I did like that. The reason why I ended up giving it the 3 stars was because, like I said, it didn't turn me into a fantasy reader. And more specifically, I was quite unhappy with the ending. Okay, I knew there was going to be a cliffhanger enough to know that, it wasn't finishing the story. However, I felt like it sort of fizzled out at the end. It was kind of like, wah, 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 so I think there needed to be something a little bit more finished but not too finished, if that makes any sense. And I'll give you an example. I read all of the Hope Holloway, the Keys series. I listened to it on Audibles, all 8, I think there's 8 books in that series. And even though I got a little tired near the end of those people, those people that are in the book, got a little bit tired near the end, I will say one strong point of that series, and it's something that I feel like is important to a series in general, is each book can stand on its own. You can read the book and it's pretty much wrapped up with those characters, but there's enough going on that you know that the next book in the series will continue the characters' stories and add more to it. And that's what I was hoping for in the Druid, and I did not get that. It was sort of like she ended up where she was supposed to be in the end of her part of her journey, which we expected, and then she was just like, that's it. I was like, okay, but I mean, I need a little bit more. There is a character that is hunting her right now, and I anticipate that that is probably her future love interest, even though right now there's this animosity between them. There's also quite a bit of chemistry. So, you know, I kind of can see that happening. But while I find that an interesting part of the novel, it is not enough for me to keep reading. But again, that's my personal take on the Druid. If you like fantasy genre, fantasy novels, this was quite easy to read, a real good sit down and get through it quickly kind of book. And if you like books that tend to have a number of texts in the series, then probably I would definitely recommend, I would definitely recommend The Druid. I'm glad I read it, and now I'm glad I'm moving on to my next book, which is also from a book club, and I will be talking about that soon when I finish reading it. Thank you for stopping by to see what's on my bookshelf. Have a wonderful day. Bye.